Okay, guys, so let's start. Today we're going to continue on the routine section. I remember that yesterday we had a couple of more types of questions. So with you guys, we should have done vocabulary, detail, except, inference, and purpose questions. Right? I'm not sure. Yes. So we did inference, I remember. Have we already done purpose questions with you guys? No, we haven't, but we did inference, right? Okay, guys, so let's move on to the next one. Purpose questions are basically, they are also called function questions. And what do you think they're going to ask about? If they're called purpose questions, what would you imagine?
What is the intention of a specific word or sentence?
Exactly. That's it. Actually, that's it. They're going to ask for the purpose or the intention, why the author included a specific sentence, a specific phrase, maybe why the author talked about something specifically, why the author used a certain word, or sometimes they ask you for the purpose of an entire paragraph, and they're like, so why is this paragraph here? What's the function of the paragraph? That is this type of question. And we're going to see how to answer them. Remember, they're not that frequent, honestly. No, you're not going to see them much, but you can get sometimes one per passage. So 1 or 0, 1 or no. Guys, we're going to continue working with the same set, the one about the Teotihuacan. I'm pretty sure that we can get to finish today. So let's see. Would anyone please read the question for me?
In paragraph 6, the author discusses the thriving obsidian operation in order to.
Okay, Wilder, thank you. So that is the question. Now, as you can see, these questions are always going to ask you why something happens. So, or why is there a specific thing in the passage? In this case, they aren't specifically or explicitly saying why, right? But they are saying the author discusses this in order to. So when they say in order to, they're asking for the why. You know, if I tell you why does the author talk about this, you're going to tell me in order to explain, in order to give an example of an industry or so on. Okay, so that's how you are able to see that you have a purpose question. In this case, it's clearly indicating they're asking for the reason why the author says something. So we're going to be working in the same way as we did yesterday. I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds, maybe 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, so that you can try to come up with the answer. Okay, I'll give you guys some time. Take a moment to read and let me know what you think. Okay, guys. So what do you think? Why does the author talk about the thriving obsidian operation? Evie, what would you choose?
Teacher, I'm pretty confused, but I'm thinking about C.
Okay, so option C. What about you, Sergio?
C. Too.
C2. All right, Jose? I think you just joined, right? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Who are we missing? Wilder?
The same.
Same. And Michaela?
C2.
Okay, great. So C it is. Actually, you guys are right. So in order to illustrate how several factors influence each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. Now, the tips that I can give you for this type of question are the following. First of all, do you remember how, and this goes like, this was, and I think most of you guys were in the writing section as well, or at least in the independent writing. So remember how in the writing section, each paragraph was supposed to be focusing on only one idea and only one idea. So it wasn't, we couldn't talk about more than one in a paragraph. So it's gonna be the same here in the reading section. Each paragraph is gonna focus on only one main idea. And everything that's mentioned in the paragraph is gonna serve as like a form to support that idea. Okay, so what you guys need to do in order to answer these questions, first of all, is to understand the main idea of the paragraph. So what is the main idea of this paragraph?
I think it's development.
Okay. What about development?
The different factors that influence for the development of this culture.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. I agree with you on that. So it talks about different factors that influence the development of the culture. But there's one more thing. There's one very important thing here. Remember I told you, you will most of the time find the main idea either in the first sentences or in the last. You know, sometimes in the first you have like the intro to the paragraph where you will find the main idea, or sometimes in the last one you have like a closing idea or like a summary of the entire paragraph. So in this case, if we read the first sentences, it says, the picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining and working, trade, relation growth, irrigation, and religious tourism. So as Wilder is saying, all of these, obsidian mining, trade, relation growth, those were the factors, right, that were mentioned before that influenced the development of the city. So what happens with this paragraph? This paragraph is trying to explain that all of these factors influence not only Teotihuacan, but influenced each other. So it was like a chain of events, right? Obsidian mining had a positive effect on trade. Trade had a positive effect on population growth. Population growth had a positive effect on irrigation. And that, like, all together influenced religious tourism. So everything worked along each other. Everything had a positive influence on each other. Every factor influenced positively the other factor. And that is kind of what this paragraph is trying to show, right? They say it's a classic picture of positive feedback. That means like a positive impact, a positive reaction among different factors. So every factor, not only was it like working separately, but it was influencing the other factor. That is the main idea here, right? And all of that together made Teotihuacan such a powerful and wealthy city. right? That is the main idea. Now, when you work with these types of questions, you need to be sure that you have two things right. The first one is if you look at all of the options, in the first part, you have these words. What type of words are these? Explain, give, illustrate, explain. What are those? Are they nouns? Verbs, exactly. So you need to make sure that you have the two things right. The first part is always going to be the verb, right? As you can see in all of these, you have verbs. So first of all, you need to make sure that you have the correct verb. And second, you need to make sure that you have the correct object. Object is everything that comes after the verb. Now, the object of the sentence that is the correct option will always be the main idea of the paragraph. So as you can see here, option C, which you have chosen, says illustrate how, so that is the verb, and this is the object, right? Several factors influenced each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. So the object of the option will be the main idea of the passage. And the verb, that is what you have to see. Why? Because remember what I told you, right? You have a main idea in each paragraph, and everything else that is mentioned in the paragraph, so examples, every single word, every single fact, every single number, every single comma or period that you have in the paragraph is there for a reason and is trying to support that main idea. So what you need to see is how this thriving obsidian operation in this case, how is it that this is supporting the main idea? Is it an example? Is it a fact? Maybe it's a contrast that is being made with another city. That's what you need to be able to see. And in this case, it's pretty easy, right? Because you have the word, for example. So you already know that this is an example. You know that the thriving obsidian operation is an example of something. So there you already have the verb, right? You know that it has to be either give an example or illustrate. But it couldn't be something like explain, because explain why is a different thing. If it would be explain why, you would have something like, this was because the thriving obsidian operation necessitated more miners. So that would be explain why something, right? And explain how is another thing. Explain how would be something like, this was done by the thriving obsidian operation necessitating more miners instead. So that's how you can look at it. First of all, you need the right verb. You need to know how this specific thing, this specific word, sentence, or phrase is supporting the main idea. In this case, it's an example. It's by giving or by illustrating. And second, you need to know the main idea, right? Which in this case, you got it right. Several factors influence each other to make the Teotihuacan powerful and wealthy. So is this okay? Do you guys know what I mean? Is it clear? Any questions? Okay. Now going back so that you can practice, let's do this one here, okay? So this is from, by the way, this is from another entirely different passage, okay? But you don't really need any context. And this kind of actually proves that you don't necessarily have to read everything carefully in order to answer well the questions, So maybe, Micaela, can you please read the question for us?
In paragraph 4, what was the author's purpose of including a cute that they believe that the complexity of the human eye could have been formed by natural selection seems highly unlikely?
Okay. So it says, don't read by the way, don't read the options before you get to the paragraph, okay? Now it says, why does the author include a quote that the complexity of the human eye could have been formed by natural selection? Seems highly unlikely. Okay, maybe you can take a screenshot of this because I'm gonna go back to the previous slide where the paragraph is. this, or just try to remember the question. So why does the author includes this quote? Is it okay? Do you all have it? Guys? And here is the paragraph. Okay? Please take a moment to read, try to do what we did, what you guys did in the previous one. Same thing, same question, same type of question, and I'll give you some time, okay, so that you can practice. Okay, guys. What do you think? By the way, the quote is the last one, right? This one. Suppose that yeah. Okay, now that you've read that, which one would you say it is? A, B, C, or D? What do you guys think?
I would go for D.
Okay, guys, what about the rest? Sergio, Edwin, what do you guys think?
I think it's B.
Okay, you say B?
I think it's D too.
B2, okay. Sergio? And Micaela?
I think it's D.
Yeah, okay. Okay, guys, so let's see. Basically, they're asking us, let's go back. They're saying, why does the author include this quote, right? To suppose that the eye, with all its inevitable contrast for adjusting the focus for different distances, for admitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of the spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I free confess, absurd in the highest degree, right? I think that's a quote from Darwin himself, right? That's something that he himself said. So let's go back to what we said you guys had to do. The first thing was understand the main idea of this paragraph, because you know that everything, every quote, every example, every fact, everything that's mentioned in the paragraph will try to support that main idea. So what was the main idea in this paragraph?
It was, thus, the theory provides an excellent basis for understanding how organisms change over the time. Nevertheless, it's just a theory and elusivelessly difficult to prove.
Okay, great, Abby. Well done. That is correct. That is the right choice. That is the main idea of the paragraph, right? Everything here is everything that this paragraph is trying to do is kind of prove or kind of demonstrate that even though this is a really good theory and that gives us an excellent basis for understanding how organisms change over time, even though that's true, it's just a theory and it's difficult to prove, right? And then after the main idea is presented, then they start talking about the holes in Darwin's theory, which are basically one of the the vacíos, right, in Darwin's theory, the things that are not proved yet. So that's it. This explanation of the irreducibly complex systems, that's basically there in order to prove the idea that it's just a theory and difficult to prove, you know? So everything else is gonna try to support that main idea. And if we go back to the options, remember that we need to have the verb and the idea correct. The only one that has the main idea is option D, to support the claim that natural selection is just a theory and difficult to prove. That is the main idea of the paragraph, and everything that's mentioned is trying to support that claim. Now, of course, we could also read the other ones. So the first one says irreducibly complex systems exist. We don't really know, or I mean, that wasn't the main focus of the paragraph, right? The focus is not really about these complex systems, but instead is about proving that it's just a theory. The natural selection contradicts the basis of Darwin's theory. I mean, I don't think this is even mentioned, right? That it contradicts because it's even his theory. So this doesn't really make that much sense. And to support that natural selection contributes to the basis of Darwin's theory of evolution. No, right? This is also incorrect. I don't think that natural selection contributes to the basis. It's the opposite, the other way around. His theory contributes to understanding those organisms. So yes, it has to definitely be D. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions about this one? Same idea, right? No questions? No questions, okay. All right, now we're gonna do paraphrase questions. Does anyone know what it means to paraphrase something?
I think it's to say the same as something, but with different words.
Exactly, paraphrase. And yes, and that's actually a skill that you need to have for the TOEFL test, right? Remember in the writing, we said you need to paraphrase certain things. In the speaking too. So here, you will need that skill as well. So basically, these paraphrase questions, they take a sentence from a certain paragraph, they show you that sentence and they tell you, choose an option that best paraphrases that sentence. So choose an option that you think is the closest one to that idea. So you need to choose one of the options that you believe is the closest one to saying the same. Of course, you're gonna find synonyms in there. You may find different word orders or different sentence order. So maybe the object is here and the subject is there, whereas in the original one, the subject comes first. So you may find switch roles, switch orders, but at the end of the day, the idea should be the same. The main idea of the sentence should stay the same in both the original sentence and the one that you choose. We're gonna see. Now, I wanna say that in this practice set, we didn't have any paraphrase questions because remember, you can have one or you can have none, right? So in this specific practice set, if you take a look at it, we didn't have any paraphrase questions, okay? So we're gonna be working with another example, which is the same as sorry for the news, which is the same as the Charles Darwin's theory, okay? Please, guys, I'm gonna give you a minute to check this question. Can we first read the question? Maybe Michaela. Could you please read the question and the sentence, please?
Which sentence is most similar to the following sentence from paragraph 1? The theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner.
Okay, great. So the good thing about these questions is that you don't need to go back to the paragraph, not necessarily. You will only need to go back to the paragraph when you have things in the sentence that are referring to something else, okay? Which is not the case in this one. So just to give you some context, remember that the theory that we're talking about is Charles Darwin's theory, right? The theory of evolution by Charles Darwin. That is the only context that you need. And the good thing is that's really good for time because you don't need to read everything. You don't need to go back to the paragraph. So we're gonna do the same. I'm gonna give you guys a few seconds, 1.5 minutes, so that you can read the options and let me know what you think. Which one you would choose that you believe is the closest one to this one. You guys take a moment to read this. All right, guys. So what do you think? That should be about enough time.
I will go for A.
Okay, William? Sinead?
A2.
A2, okay. Somebody else?
I think it's A.
Okay. Good, we agree then. Michaela?
A.
A as well. Okay, great. So we all agree that it's A. Okay, guys. So now the most important thing here is not to focus too much on the words or the order, because those are usually the big traps. But instead, you should focus on the idea. So same thing as we did for the paragraphs, when I would ask you, so what is the main idea of this paragraph, right? Same thing you can do for the sentence, because that will be the most important thing. You need to understand what the main idea of the original sentence is, and that same main idea has to be in the option you choose. So in this case, what is the main idea of this sentence? Who can summarize it even more for me? What is the main idea? What is the main idea? Of the original sentence?
That life developed from not life and progress.
Right? Are you sure that is the main idea? To show that life develops from non-life?
Evolve in an indirect manner.
Okay. I wouldn't say that's the main idea. In order to know what the main idea of a sentence is, do you guys know what is the most important word from a sentence?
Maybe the
From any
verb.
the verb, exactly. That is the most important word from a sentence. So in order to know what the most important idea from a sentence is, you should always be looking at the verb first. That is gonna give you a clue. So in this case, the most important thing is gonna be to show what the theory is based on. That is the most important thing. Not necessarily the fact that it was based on this and that, but just to show what the theory was based on, okay? Always look at the verb. You always have the subject and the verb, and those are the most important parts. In this case, the main idea of the sentence is to show what the theory is based on. Okay, it kind of asks the question, what is this theory based on? This sentence answers that question. Same thing should go for your for the options. Now, can anyone tell me why did you choose A and why not C? What is wrong with the option C? Because there's one thing in option A that says the theory of evolution is founded on evidence, whereas the original sentence says the theory is based on the assumptions. Do you guys think that evidence and assumptions are the same? And what happens with option C? Why not C? Now, option C looks good, right? Because it says, according to Darwin, that's fine, because we know that Darwin was the one that created this theory. So according to him, if we assume, so if these assumptions are true, if we assume that life at its origin was created from non-life or from non-organic compounds and developed in an unguided manner, this is basically a synonym of indirect matter. Non-organic compounds are basically non-life, right? Because life is organic compounds. So life at its origin was created or developed from non-organic compounds and developed in an unguided manner. His theory holds true, right? So everything looks good in option C, whereas in option A, we have is founded on evidence, right? Whereas we just have assumptions in here. So what do you guys think? Why not C? Can anyone tell me why you discarded option C?
Because it says that his theory holds true. The first original sentence doesn't mention anything about that.
Okay, okay. Yes, kind of, although we can kind of make this inference, right? See, if we think about it, if this theory was based on these assumptions, if the assumptions are true, this is cause and effect, the theory should be true as well, right? So if these assumptions are true, then the theory should be true. But I like your answer too, because what happens is, remember how I told you, in order to identify the main idea of a sentence, look at the main verb. So what is the main verb of this sentence, of option C?
We
Assume.
That is a verb, but that is not the main verb. Because if you think about it, we can eliminate all of this. This is like extra information.
Was create.
Not necessarily, no.
hold.
Holds. That is the main verb of this sentence. What happens is that conditional is extra, right? It's like if I say, I will buy a car if I win the lottery. So the main idea is that I will buy a car. If I win the lottery, is something extra information. Same thing here, right? This theory holds true if we assume that life at its origin is blah, blah, blah. So the main verb, although you can see the reverse order, is holds. So that is the main idea. The main idea of option C is not really what the theory was based on, but that his theory will hold true if this thing happens, right? So the main idea, the main focus is completely different than the original one. Although like option C comes as an inference, it's not correct. And you guys are right. Option A will be the right one. Why? Because of the main idea. The main idea, the main verb in option A is founded, right? So option A has the same main idea, to show what this theory was founded on, or what is based on, which is the same, right? So even though it isn't exactly the same as you can see, because evidence isn't the same as assumptions, it is the closest one, right? It is the most similar one. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So option A will be the right one. Is this okay, you guys? Do you have any questions about this type of question specifically? No? Okay. Now the next one of the easiest ones, honestly, the one that is gonna take you the less time, is like the ideal question. It's sort of like a gift that you get. They're called reference questions. You will see what I mean, or you will see what they mean with the reference when we get to an example. Same thing as in the previous one. We don't have a reference question in this passage. So we're gonna take another example from a different passage, this one in here. And we're gonna do the same. I'm gonna give you guys 1.5 minutes so that you can read the question and try to find the answer, and then we'll discuss. Okay, guys, so please read. Okay, guys, so what would you say? What is the right answer?
I think it's D.
Okay. This is D. What about the rest?
Same.
Same, do you all agree? Yeah, right, great. So yes, this is one of the easiest ones that you'll get. As you can see, the question will always look the same. It will be like the word those, the word these, the word it, the word them in paragraph X refers to. So that word that you have at the end refers to. That's how you'll know that it's one of these questions. But honestly, it's pretty easy to identify. You always have, these are called pronouns, right? You have many different types of pronouns, but these are the pronouns. And what you have to do is find the noun that corresponds to this pronoun. Now, honestly, I mean, we could review the grammar, but I don't think it's necessary because it's just a matter of common sense. Now, the tips that I can give you, first of all, always read the question first. Don't read the options because it will confuse you. So just read the question and look for that word. It will be highlighted, so no problem. Look for the word and please don't read the entire paragraph. This should take you about 30 seconds. This is the quickest question that you'll get. So what you have to do is read the sentence where the word is first. You read the sentence where the word is, so starting with the capital letter, ending with a period. If you don't find the answer there, then you read the sentence before that. So you go back to the previous sentence. If you still don't find the answer, you go back one more sentence and you work like that. But I promise most of the time you will find the answer either in the same sentence or in the previous one. You don't really have to do a lot of reading. Okay, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna read. Here's the word, and it says, over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while those that harm survival will be selected against. Right? So this is a pronoun. We have to look for the noun. Most of the time, the noun will be the subject of your sentence. So let's see what we're talking about in this sentence. It says, over time, this is just a complement. Beneficial is an adjective, it's not a noun. So we're looking for another noun, right? Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics, well, those are nouns. We're gonna see if those are the ones. That promote survival, okay, this is already a verb. This is the object. This is another verb, will be kept, more verbs, in the gene pool. This is a noun, but this is the object. While those that harm survival will be selected against, right? This is another noun. So now you just have to identify what this sentence is talking about. In this case, the main subject, the thing that we're referring to is traits and characteristics, right? The beneficial ones are kept, while the ones that harm survival, the traits and characteristics that harm survival are selected against. Other tips that I can give you that are pretty easy to follow. First of all, always make sure that you look at the pronoun and that you see whether it's plural or singular. In this case, the word those is plural or singular? Is it plural or singular? What is it? Does it refer to one thing or more than one thing?
It's plural.
Plural.
It's plural, right? Because those refers to more than one thing. So if you think about it, those needs to be referring to something plural, to something more than one thing. So gene pool is only one. Survival is singular. Natural selection is singular as well. The only plural noun that we have in the options is D, right? Traits and characteristics. So, you know, just by looking at that, you could answer the question without even reading the paragraph. So these are the easiest ones, I'd say. Look at those things. Is it plural or singular? Sometimes it's referring to a male or a female, you know, if you have he or she. Those are the things that you should be looking at. And of course, if you have like two plural nouns, then you can go back and you can read, you know, until it makes sense. Is this okay? Is this type of question good? All right. And unfortunately, we don't have many of these. They're not that common, but they are the easiest ones. Okay, guys. And that's it. We're done with the types of questions. We are just missing one type of question, which is the last one, summary questions. Okay? We're probably gonna be doing that tomorrow. I don't know if we can do it now. Or maybe we can start today and continue tomorrow. Okay, guys. So these questions, just as a brief introduction, they are always the last of your questions. They come at the end, okay? And so it's always gonna be the 10th question. And it looks something like this. We go back to the last question of this passage. It looks like this. You have a very long question and it says directions, an introductory sentence. Maybe, Sergio, can you please read the directions?
An introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage is provided below. Complete the summary by selecting the three answers choice that express the most important ideas in the passage. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not present in the passage or are minor ideas in the passage. This question is worth 2 points.
Okay, all right, thanks, Sergio. So that's it. Basically, what you need to do for this type of question, they will give you 6 sentences. As you can see here, these are the answer choices. In this case, you won't have A, B, C, and D. You have until the F. A, B, C, D, E, and F. You have 6 sentences, and out of these 6 sentences, you need to choose only 3. You will have to choose 3 of these 8 sentences, and you will have to drag them and drop them into the box. So here you have to complete with the 3 sentences that you chose. Now, the traps here. Out of these sentences, you will always have one that is incorrect. That means that's something that is not true according to the passage, or something that has nothing to do with the passage. So for example, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. Okay. That was practice set number 2. This is the one, right, we're doing. So for example, this passage was about Teotihuacan, right? I promise that you will always have at least one sentence that is about something different. You know, maybe it focuses on Huicuilco, which is something that was mentioned, but would you guys say that is the main idea from the passage we read? No, right? This wasn't focused on Huicuilco. So you will have one sentence that's either incorrect or it's out of topic. And you will have other sentences that are too specific. So for example, if like one part in the paragraph, they talked about, I don't know, I don't remember, but let's say the Guatemalan highlights, you know, this is something that is mentioned in one part of the passage. But if you don't think that it's an important idea, then you shouldn't choose something that contains that. So you will always have one sentence that is too specific, that is talking about one specific point that could be true, but it doesn't really matter when we look at the whole picture. So those are the things that you will have. You will have sentences that are out of context, that are not true, or that are too specific to be a good summary. And remember that they are asking you to choose ideas that are the main ideas, you know, the most important ideas. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna probably finish tomorrow with this question, but I'm just giving you like a brief introduction to what they are. Okay. Do you guys have any questions so far? We'll answer this tomorrow. Any questions so far about the reading section? Any type of question that wasn't so clear? Okay, guys. So tomorrow, good thing is we are already done. We're just missing this question. We'll do this tomorrow and we'll do one more practice set. But this time we're not gonna go question by question, right? We're gonna answer everything as a way to practice. Okay, guys, without looking at the theory or anything. So is that okay? Any questions, any suggestions for tomorrow's class, maybe? Guys, thank you so much. Now, please, before you go, we have to do 2 surveys today. So I'm sending you the first one out. You could please fill it out for us, for me. And then I'll send the other one when you guys are done. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm sending the other one out, please. Don't go yet. Okay, there you go. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, really. I'll see you all tomorrow. Good night.
Bye.
Bye, teacher.